about 50, all of but 11 of 50 criminals due to be deported to Jamaica this morning were removed from the flight after last-ditch appeals. The offenders, including a murderer, rapists and paedophiles, were scheduled to leave at 1 a.m. Home Office sources said the department had been forced to postpone many of the deportations after successful legal challenges. Last night, former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn urged Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, to do the right thing and cancel this inhumane deportation flight, he says. A Home Office source said, "I wonder if the victims would consider their deportation as inhumane." Is that the right word to use? Inhumane? Joining me on this, Ben Harris-Quinney, chair of the Bow Group, that's the world's oldest conservative think tank, and Steve Valdez-Simmons, refugee and migrant rights program director at Amnesty International. Afternoon to you both. Ben, first of all, was it the right thing to do to try and get all of these criminals onto a flight in the first place?
Yes, I think it was, because the basic principle is that if you come to this country and you commit a very serious crime, that you are deported. I think most people in the country agree with that idea. Being a resident in the United Kingdom is a privilege, and if you murder someone, if you sexually abuse someone, if you seriously assault someone, if you commit serious crime, then I think it is right that you lose that privilege, because serious crime comes with serious consequences.
Steve, it's very hard to argue against that, isn't it?
Well, it's much harder to argue against something that doesn't relate to many of the people on the flight. I think part of the problem is that the deportation policy is set so widely that it captures lots of people who shouldn't be anywhere near one of these flights, including people who've grown up here from very early childhood, sometimes, in fact, although not, I think, this flight, even from birth in this country, who've never been to and certainly have little memory of any of the places to which they are to be deported. Their connections are all here. For that matter, their criminality is all here. They go through our criminal justice system, they serve their time. I'm afraid it's just vengeful to expel someone, exile someone effectively, to some other place that doesn't know them.
Ben, I mean, you heard Steve there. The point is that, some of these people aren't really, they might have the nationality of another place, in this case Jamaica, but they're about as Jamaican as you are.
Yeah, but that's immaterial. Whether they have memories of where they're coming from, or whether they've registered with a GP over here, or whatever the various myriad ties are to here, the fact is, if they are serious criminals, and if they're proven not to be serious criminals, that is a different question. But if they are serious criminals, then I think our immigration policy needs to be that we do not want serious criminals in this country. However many people they know in this country is immaterial to that. It's a question of the rights of British citizens versus the rights of people that come here and want to live here and want to integrate with our society. And I think I don't believe in mass immigration, but I believe in immigration. I think if people want to come here and contribute to Britain, that's a great thing. But if they abuse that privilege, and let's remember that these are very serious crimes. We're talking about, as you say, paedophilia, murder, serious assault, rape. For these sorts of serious crimes, I think we absolutely don't want these people in our country, okay, however much they want to be here.
Steve, is it about the manner of the crime then, or is that irrelevant to you? Are you relaxed about the more serious criminals being deported, regardless of how long they've been here? And it's the remainder that you're less concerned. What's the deal here? Is it about criminality? Is it about all of them?
It's about both of those two things. The starting point is that some of the people on this flight are, as you put it, as British as you or I or Mr. Harris. And the fact is that actually our British nationality laws, if they were only accessible to people, recognise that. It's just that people aren't able to register their citizenship rights for a variety of reasons, including, as I say, people born and grown up here. And it's simply improper to treat them as foreign when they are British. There are also questions about some people who face being removed from countries to which I agree they have moved to as adults and have chosen to settle and make their lives here, although they have family and children here too, to consider the seriousness of their offence and any risk that they will re-offend. I'm afraid none of the evidence about this flight or any of the other flights that have gone before suggest that either of those two factors is properly addressed, or even a matter that the Home Office wishes to consider in its policy.
But Steve, many might listen to this and say, hang on a second, these are not, there may be the odd case where somebody has been here from a young age and they know very little about their country of origin. But the fact that their parents over 20 years didn't sort out their papers, or they couldn't be bothered to do it, and they went on to have to get themselves a criminal record, that's not the fault of the British taxpayer. So the fact is that the government say, look, if you commit something and you're not from this country, when you've served your sentence, you go back to that country of origin. That's not unfair, is it?
I think it's deeply unjust. If you're someone who has been born in this country, for example, or brought here at the age of 2, or even 6 or 7, and have grown up here all your childhood here, so many of the children that I have personally met have no idea that they're any less British than anyone else until it happens that the Home Office decide they wish to deport them. And the truth is they aren't any less British than anyone else. And it's not even that the state isn't impeding their access to the nationality that is theirs by right. It does do so by a variety of means, including charging even children born and grown up in this country who have to register for citizenship over £1,000 to do that.
Is there?
I'm sorry, it's improper.
Okay, but Ben, is there any part of you that can understand some of the more seductive cases from Steve's perspective, where a kid might have been a month old when they came here and they found themselves with a criminal record for drug misuse of some sort, which is not a good thing, but it's not up there with paedophilia and murder, and they're now facing going back to a country they know nothing about?
Well, I think the first point is a lot's been talked about that these people are as British as you or I. If that is true, if they are British citizens, then it's an entirely different debate. I don't think we can deport British citizens.
Well, they're not documented Brits,
yeah,
but they haven't lived anywhere else.
It is a debate about the morals around it, but it's also a debate about law. And if they are not legally British citizens, then that is a very important differentiation. And so they're not as British as you or I in a legal context. So I think the rules have to apply to all immigrants that come here that are not British citizens. If they commit serious crime, I think that it has to be an even keel for all of them. As to the point about the criminality, look, I don't know all of the cases involved here. I don't think anyone does. We don't want to prejudice those cases by discussing them in too much detail. But if it turns out that these people have been falsely accused, or that they're not serious criminals, as you were alluding to, if they've got a minor drugs charge or something like that, then I do think that this would be excessive. But
okay, so there is a line there then, Ben, and similarly then, Steve, is there a line for you too?
If someone's been found in possession of marijuana, for example, I don't think that is a serious enough offence to either have a prison sentence or to be.
But would anybody found in possession of marijuana ever gone to prison in the first place?
No, I don't think so, and that's what we're saying. We're differentiating between serious crime and minor offences.
Okay, but I think Ben was attempting to understand some of your position, and similarly, Steve, do you understand some of if somebody had been over here for 10 years, for example, and committed terrible acts, and they were clearly not a British national, then why would it be so wrong for that person to be sent back to their country of origin?
Well, I'll be clear. It is not Amnesty's position that all deportations must end. There is a proper place for deporting people who aren't British citizens, who have no right to British citizenship, and whose presence in this country may be shown to be against the public good, and their position to be reasonable to think that deportation is appropriate, particularly if this offence is very serious, and particularly if they do not have long residence and family here. So I accept that there are lines. All I'm saying is, as things stand at the moment, our deportation policy doesn't attempt to draw those lines, or rather it draws them so broadly against or in favour of deporting anyone that's improper, and that needs addressing urgently. Okay, Steve, thank you. Steve Valdez-Simmons, Refugee and Migrant Rights Programme Director at Amnesty International UK. The other voice you heard there was Ben Harris-Quinney, Chair of the Bow Group. They are the world's oldest conservative think tank.